Hello, everyone. Marco and Franca in particular. I'm going to share and screen share some ideas, but first let me just talk about the basic idea that we came up with yesterday, which was to create an intentional city. Lots of people talk about intentional communities. We're going to create an intentional community. Where? In the clouds. An intentional community in the clouds. And this intentional community will have all kinds of cool stuff. Intentional city, an intentional city in the clouds, where the purpose, the inspiration, the purpose, the goal, the mission is to save, heal, and transform life on Earth, not just for the residents of that intentional city in the clouds, but for all of life on Earth, all of humanity. But there needs to be a city that leads the charge, and that's what we're going to co-create. So with that, let me screen share some visuals here. Okay, so we have here's the clouds, and here's this intentional city. I'm just drawing some images of this intentional city in the clouds with all kinds of different infrastructure and whatnot. Anyway, and one of the things that I want to talk about is that it's all fine to talk about this intentional city in the clouds, but let's create a bridge. Let's create a bridge that will help connect the intentional city in the clouds with the rest of the physical world, right? So we've got these continents here and countries and all that, and here I'm just going to fill in some ocean. So we got this physical world. How do we create a bridge between the physical world and this city in the clouds? Well, let's delve into more about the city itself. I've even come up with a name for it that builds off of an acronym and then goes further. So let me write the basis of it. Intentional city in the clouds. So if we take these first four letters at the beginning of the acronym, we get ICIC. And when you first, imagine that when you first arrive at this intentional city in the clouds, and let's just try out the name ICIC. One of the first responses, reactions you get as from people who are first-time visitors is this. Listen to this. I see. Because there is so much for them to see in this intentional city in the clouds. For example, if we were to draw out kind of like a city map, right, where we have different areas of the city, one of the central features of the city would be an amusement park called Togetherland. We'd have an amusement park called Togetherland. There'd be a super cool snack bar, which is a really great place to hang out in ICIC, right? Like I talked about, there'll be this bridge connecting ICIC with what I'll just call the rest of the world, or what some people might call the real world. That's fine, right? ROW, rest of world, or real.
Or actually ROW, thinking of Trump.
ROW. I don't know what ROW means in the Trump context, but anyway, but a bridge connecting the two. And last week, on Friday precisely, we were talking about creating a program called El Puente, which is Spanish for the bridge. And in particular, if you think about how Trump and a lot of these fascist Americans have treated Hispanic people and migrants from the Spanish-speaking world, I think having some Spanish language, and El Puente would be both Spanish and English, and actually all languages. And we simply translate for each other and share, and that's how we help create cultural understanding and connection. So El Puente is my nomination for the bridge between these two worlds. And when you first come, there would also be, I'm also thinking, what was the term that we were talking about? It was like not a lost university, but an abandoned university. Yeah, an abandoned university. And I'll talk more about that. That's right. Shannon was talking about how she wanted to live in an abandoned university. That'll be a core feature of ICIC. But the first thing that I think what we can do to really attract a lot of people to come here, and then, oh, by the way, another thing that we'll have here is that I'm proposing is the press conference. And the press conference really has two purposes. One is to broadcast internally within the city what's going on, but also to broadcast back to the rest of the world what's going on, right? Let's keep people up to date. So people will hear about us either from people who go back and forth across the bridge between ICIC and the real world. They'll hear about us on the press conference. And but Togetherland will be an amusement park within ICIC. And there's one ride that I want to, or I'll stop screen share so I can talk about this ride that I'm proposing that could be the central ride for ICIC. And that ride would be called, I'm going to say it in Spanish and then I'll translate it to English. The number one attractor, this ride that will just blow your mind in Togetherland, the amusement park of ICIC, is this. The ride would be called El Culo del Diablo. El Culo del Diablo. And what that means, literally,
The devil's ass.
The devil's butthole, the devil's asshole, right? Because here's the thing, and that ride would be precisely going into the depths of the world of Guy McPherson, right? Because the devil in this case is exponential climate change. And the devil is pointing his asshole at planet Earth, and he's about to light the biggest fart that is just going to torch the entire planet. So if we want to get real, we have to contend with El Culo del Diablo, right? We got to go in there. We got to get in there. It ain't pretty. It's dirty. It stinks. It's yucky. And it's very real, right? And so the ride, El Culo del Diablo, guided by Professor Guy McPherson, takes you into the depths of El Culo, right? And it shows you just how bad it is and just how deadly and dangerous this burgeoning fart. And it's really a fart in two senses. One is in the sense of the methane. We've been long awaiting this 50 teraton, gigaton, whatever methane belch, that's coming from, as the Arctic heats up and as the oceans heat up generally, we're bubbling up all kinds of methane, Siberia, you name it, okay? But then also it's a good metaphor for this lit fart that's about to torch the entire planet of exponential planetary overheating generally. So we have El Culo del Diablo ride. And but it becomes a very popular ride because it becomes kind of a point of initiation between those who are clueless about what's coming our way in terms of exponential planetary overheating and those who are dialed in, right? Those who have not taken El Culo del Diablo ride yet and those who have. And those who have, your life is transformed forever. Just look at Marco. Marco, imagine if you look at a before and after picture of Marco before taking the Culo del Diablo ride and after. Marco, how would you describe your perspective on life before and after?
I'm at a loss for words right now.
Yeah, You're at a loss for words. You can't even describe it. Okay, so that's number one. Now, the next thing would be the next ride, the next most popular ride would be what I call the devil's fire extinguisher. We're going to take a big ass fire extinguisher and stuff it up the devil's culo. We're going to stuff it up el culo del diablo, and we're going to clog it up so that this lit fart simply doesn't happen, right? So, and that's the YATOW SRM solution. And we've already got the material for that. Thank you, Dr. Tao. We just play his presentation. And see, the simplest way to do the ride over and over and over again, like plastic parsley on the Alaska Airlines commercial from the 80s, use it over and over again. Remember that, Marco? I don't know. Maybe you didn't remember that. Maybe you did. Okay. Anyway, maybe that was a West Coast thing. But
yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. Anyway, but the way we have a presentation, we play it, we live stream it in the breakout room for that ride, El Culo del Diablo, and then we have discussion afterwards. And we say, all right, let's talk about it. Same with the devil's fire extinguisher, right? Or the devil's fire. I like fire extinguisher because that you can really imagine taking a big old fire extinguisher and just shoving it up the devil's culo, right? And clogging that up so he doesn't ignite a fart and torch us with it. Okay, that's SRM. So boom, boom, you've got the two most popular rides, El Culo del Diablo and the Devil's Fire Extinguisher. Why not, right? And it's like, until you've seen those, you ain't seen jack. And then a third ride would be Food Healers for saving, healing, and transforming life on Earth through the saving, healing, and transformation of humanity. We first put the oxygen mask on humanity. Let's call it humanity's oxygen mask. There we go. See, let me write this down. You can't make this up. El Culo del Diablo. The Devil's Fire Extinguisher. And Food Healers. Saving, healing, and transforming life on Earth through saving, healing, and transforming humanity, aka humanity's oxygen mask.
Before you go on, Jamin, I have a question.
Yeah.
Could you talk to those metaphors, the rides? I'm thinking, is it something educational so people will see what the milestones are, the processes, or are these actual initiatives? What are those rides?
Yeah, so the rides are just like an amusement park. They're there to entertain and educate and be transformational, to transform your life as you take these rides. These are rides from which you never come back. Let's put it that. I like that as a tagline. Rides from which you
educational ghost trains.
Well, we talked about the ghost train ride with Guy McPherson, but I really like, rides from which you never come back. That's the guarantee. That's the promise. You go on one of these rides, you will never come back the same as before you embarked on the ride. It will change you forever. And that's the whole idea.
Oh yeah, I do prefer rides you never come back from as well. I was just wondering whether the visual I'm supposed to get was that pretty much of a ghost train, not using the term ghost train, obviously.
Oh yeah, no. I love the ghost train as a visual. Yeah, but not use the term.
Okay.
Love it. So visual.
Got it.
Yeah, love it. Beautiful. Okay. And so this can be a huge promotional mechanism for promoting ICIC. See, when you go on these rides, you come back and you say, I see. Once you've been enlightened, once it's been illuminated for you, you never go back. You never go back to the diluted reality. that, you know, climate change is something we can fix by changing light bulbs and it's not that bad. And, uh, if people want to eat, they should get a job. And, and the only way to solve climate change anyway is through cutting emissions, right? These are lies. These are delusions, right? Which are destroying life on Earth, right? And so the Togetherland rides, with the ghost train visual, but what a trio. El Culo del Diablo, the Devil's Fire Extinguisher, and humanity's oxygen mask. Boom. 1, 2, 3. And you go on these rides and you will never come back. That's the promise. Rides from which you will never come back. Now, did either of you see the movie The Ring? That scary movie from like the year 2001, 2002, 2003. Anyway, there's this video that if you watch it, you die 7 days later. Right?
Yes, I watched it.
I've heard of it, but I haven't watched it.
But just the fact that you've heard of it, what a powerful meme. And like on the DVD, this was back in the days of DVDs before Netflix. So I got the DVD. I love the movie so much. And on the DVD, special features, one of the menu items is don't watch this. Right? So what did I do? I watched it. I'm still hanging, but I was, it was kind of scary, watching the don't watch this portion of the DVD. That's the kind of feeling I want to create with rides from which you never come back.
How about in brackets, the same?
The same? Oh, well, no, I hear what you're saying, but why tone it down? Why tone it down? Why not just say rides from which you never come back? Because then, every 17-year-old with a pierced nostril is going to want to watch that. Is going to want to go on these rides. It sounds like some cool drug. Like the dude took too much acid. He went on a trip. He just never came back.
Okay.
It's like, oh, I got to try
All the
that.
suicidal ones will prefer
but
over having to top themselves. Okay.
But no, I hear what you're saying. But here's the thing. It's like, it's time for some freaking shock and awe here, right?
Okay.
We've had enough of dancing around. Well, I want to be PC. I don't want to shock anyone. Enough of that. Enough. Right? It's time for Stalingrad. Whenever I see Marco's face, I think about Choikov because he just looks dead on Choikov. Here, I'll screen share here. Let Franca be the judge of this. This is Marco. Here, let me screen share here. I'm going to pause recording. Okay, and the reason that the bridge is called El Puente, right, is because in order to really get it, in order to really see, I see, in order to see, I see. Isn't that cool, the play on words? In order to really see, I see, you need to become Hispanic, because in our culture, we do not let people not get stuff. In American culture, you can choose your own reality, right? Not so in the Hispanic world. In the Hispanic world, we have all kinds of sayings. We're very passionate. We're very expressive. And it is something that, oh, this is so cool. I got to show you guys some images of a bridge that I grew up looking at, because literally from the back deck of our house, you can see the Golden Gate Bridge where I grew up, and see how it's often covered in clouds, right? So this is, aren't these beautiful images? This is the bridge to the city in the clouds, right? But there are days when you can't even see the bridge at all. It is so buried in clouds. So in order to see the bridge, you have to not relate to it as the bridge in English or Anglo culture. You need to see it in very Hispanic terms, el puente, el puente. And in fact, the full name is El Puente Ese, El Puente Ese, El Puente Ese, which means the bridge, dude. See, sometimes you can't see the bridge at all. Sometimes you can only see a little bit of it. But to really see the bridge, El Puente Ese, you need to see it in Spanish. You need to see it through the Hispanic lens, because we will talk with you. We will work with you in English or Spanish. The language doesn't matter so much as the culture. El Puente. And what a great bridge of cultures, because in the program, El Puente, the bridge, you will become Hispanic. That's the promise. Become Hispanic.
Can I ask questions again at this point already? Or is it not-
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. Go for it. Claudia.
You're clearer about those metaphors and images than I am at this point. So the cloud, does that mean the clouds, is it digital?
Yeah. The cloud is digital. Of course, with some of these images, I'm talking about clarity and being able to see things, and that you kind of have to go into the clouds a bit and get a little bit lost, but you won't be alone. You will have guides, and there will be.
So is it like a double meaning, both digital, and you have to go through this not knowing fuzzy stuff until.
That's it. That's it.
So it's a double meaning.
It's a double
and
meaning.
Then the other thing I was wondering, is it the Spanish thing that people get loud and it sounds like they're fighting when really they're just trying to get the other person to get their point, your
Yeah,
own
absolutely.
point?
Absolutely. It's passion.
Is
It's
that what
passion.
you mean by us having to get Spanish? Like,
Yeah, we need to get
about the point.
It's actually Hispanic, and there's a difference. Spanish is really associated with Spain and the language. Hispanic is the culture, but it's really a collage of cultures, the cultures of the, dozens of countries around the world that speak Spanish, mostly in Latin America, but it includes Spain. So Hispanic is broader. So that's exactly what I mean. You need to get into the Hispanic mode of, it's not okay for you to not get something. Right.
Okay.
In English,
so the gringo will think they're fighting when really the truth will prevail. It'll sound like the one who shouts the loudest will win, but really there is some content happening there as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. So here, me, gringa, have one last question as far as the metaphors is concerned.
Yeah.
How is the bridge? Why do we need to call the bridge El Puente? Why? You were saying all these words, and I didn't get what the metaphor stood for.
Yeah. So it's called El Puente, the bridge, precisely because it has built into it the Hispanic reference. If you want to be able to cross over through the clouds into the point where you too say, I see, you have to come into the Hispanic realm.
Oh, I see. Is it like there has to be a treatment that deals with your ego and your preconceptions, because you don't even know what your blind spots are. So
Yeah.
there'll have to be a bit of a muscly masseuse or something. Some treatment has to happen.
Absolutely.
You have to be exposed to the gentle warrior.
Exactly.
The Hispanic person. Okay, so I get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hence El Puente, through the clouds and to the clouds of I see, the intentional city in the clouds, ICIC.
Yeah. So you've already occupied it, and it's your idea with the Spanish thing. And I'd like to add, the way you see me engaging with this, you can probably tell that a bit of German engineering of meaning wouldn't go amiss.
Absolutely. Germans are welcome. We're in fact, in Spain, the way we say German is Alemán, which comes from the German dancing. Alemán, all men, all people come and dance together, because that's how the Spanish originally got exposed to German, was the traveling dance companies that would go through Spain and dance. And they would say, oh, those are the Alemanes, because we associated you with the Aleman dance. Has nothing to do with Deutsch or anything like that. Allemand, Deutsch, there's no connection, right?
Mm.
England and Inglés in Spanish, there's a real connection. France and Francia, very clear connection, right? But Deutsch and Allemand, where's the connection? It's the dance, right?
Mm.
So we got to know you through your dance. You're going to get to know us through our dance. And it's a dance
So,
where it's not okay that you not get something. Everyone must get it. And it gets back to
yeah,
Allemand. All people must get it.
that's a lovely different angle from what I was saying. It's interesting. Right. The thing I was saying, I'm not sure whether that's that welcome. It's a bit of it's almost juxtaposed to dancing because it's really strict, it's intentional, as if it was a sin to not see what is true and what is important. And it's not always very compassionate that the engineering to get the truth into your mind happens, if you know what I mean. So that was actually engineering, German engineering, rather than all dancing together. And I think I think we need to be all dancing together so that we were happy to yield or engage with somebody wanting to sort our perceptions and preconceptions out.
That's really well said. And German engineering, welcome. We all need to learn how to engineer like the Germans, right? We need to re-engineer our world, re-engineer our economy, re-engineer our living arrangements. So German engineering, welcome. German philosophy, welcome. Everything, Allemand, welcome.
That's amazing. So it's a big framework. There's a lot that can be gathered, probably, all the knowledge that has already been produced. Every initiative that tries to save the planet has already produced so much material. So it's probably a case of sifting through it and finding those crucial things and simplifying it and to make it part of those ghost rides, isn't it?
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and Guy McPherson has sifted through and simplified and identified the 60, at last count, 67 self-reinforcing feedback loops driving exponential climate change. And only one negative feedback loop opposing it, which is black body radiation, which is very minimal. That's like being in a Ferrari with flooring it, a quarter mile from the edge of a cliff and saying, oh, I'm going to slow us down by putting my hand out the window. That's black body radiation response, very minimal. So he has sifted through and boiled it down to its essence, the problem. So that's El Culo del Diablo, right? And then Yetao's is the devil's fire extinguisher. We're gonna shove it up his culo. We're going to take this nice, big, hot red fire extinguisher and shove it up his culo, the devil's culo, and stop the devil from torching us with his flaming fart.
And is the fire extinguisher the solutions like solar radiation management?
That's precisely it. SRM is the short-term solution, hence the fire extinguisher. It's not the only solution because there are other solutions like getting kids, like with the house on fire analogy, getting kids to not play with matches is a solution. Fire resistant building materials are also solutions. But what are you going to tell the mother whose kids are in the attic, the house is engulfed in flames, the fire department shows up? Are you going to say, hey, whoa, we shouldn't be like putting out the fire with high pressure hoses and all that. We should be, only addressing this with solutions that get to the source of the problem. Kids playing with matches and fire resistant building materials. No, when the house is on fire, you put out the fire. Now, once the fire has been put out, if you want to bring all the kids in the neighborhood together and teach them to not play with matches, I'm fully supportive. If you want to bring all the construction companies together and say, hey, let's build with fire resistant building materials, I'm fully supportive. But the thing to do
we need to
right
feed
now,
people.
Well, the thing to do right now is put out the
first.
fire.
Yeah.
And if we're going to put out the fire, humanity needs to put on her oxygen mask first before she can help her mother put her oxygen mask on, Mother Earth. That's why we need to feed people first. Because until
Yes.
we do that, we're all trapped in this game of individual hoarding for individual survival.
And what am I to do? I'm going to have to burn down the rainforest because that's where I'm going to grow my crop that I'm
That's
going
where
to
I'm gonna
sell to some people. Yeah.
that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
There's big money in big animal agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Cool. So this is like the framework, and it's something that we could, yeah, it's a nice content umbrella, I think. And we can decide how much, like Second Life, we actually want to populate that city in the clouds, or whether it's just going to be like a content and process platform. But I think we can even, like we're living around the campfire right now, it could be that kind of thing as well.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Mm.
Absolutely. So imagine that the campfire becomes the landing spot in ICIC. It's a very
Mm-hmm.
friendly landing spot for people who are travelers who are there with their backpack and their walking stick, and they say, "Hey, I just, I saw this bridge, El Puente. I crossed the bridge. Here I am. What's next?" Right? And so
Yes.
it's almost like there's two stages. There's the El Puente stage. You to get to ICIC, you need to cross El Puente. And then once you're there, where is a safe place to land? Give me some orientation. That's the campfire. And then, a lot of people are going to head straight to Togetherland to take these rides from which you never come back, starting with El Culo del Diablo.
Can I keep my SUV though? That would be something, that conversation to be had as they're landing.
I didn't understand your question. Can you repeat, please?
It wasn't a question, it was like me landing with a lot of unawareness. Like, I want to keep my SUV because I like it so much and I love my T-bone steak. So to be received with compassion.
Yeah. I mean, this would be
And
like, yeah. And that's a huge part of it. Receiving people with compassion where they're at and really welcoming them, saying, "Hey, come to Togetherland. You might really enjoy these rides. You'll never come back, but you might really enjoy them. And guess what? You won't want to come back once you take these rides." And just that very message alone is enough to give you, but you've definitely, they may take the ride and they may not take the ride, but they will never forget having to make that choice between taking the ride or not taking the ride. Some people will not take the ride because of fear, but they'll never forget having the daylight scared out of them with a ride from which they will never come back if they take it.
I think this interface is probably more crucial than the actual rides, because the very almost personality trait of those who want to hold on to their T-bone steaks and SUVs is a lack of openness. If you're already creative and open, you'll have been compassionate enough to not even have to go to these rides, or they will not change you as much. So really reaching out to the ones with that traditional American dream that calls for a big car and a big house, that is going to be like the crucial thing that'll make the biggest difference, and to attract them into that space in the first place. Because the people we'd make the biggest difference with and for would be the ones who least wanted.
Yeah, very
and
good
who wouldn't
points.
even want to go on that experiment. It's like openness.
Yeah.
And lateral thinking is the very opposite of "this is my right, I get to do it" kind of thing. So yeah, so I see a lot of engineering having to be done to even attract them into that space, and then to keep them wanting to engage with it. So that would be my psychology hat even. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, you see, what we're first doing is actually preaching to the choir of change makers, right?
Okay.
But the cool thing is because this ICIC, this intentional city in the clouds, it's an intentional city by and for change makers. It's created by change makers and it's created for change makers. Now, you may not know that you're a change maker yet, but take a few rides in Togetherland, hang out at the snack bar, hang out at the campfire, right? And you will very most likely become a change maker, right? And that's part of the never coming back, the never going back to the old American dream and the old system of lies and delusions that keep people stuck and trapped in the old game, right? But at first, change makers will come pouring in and saying, wow, I heard about this intentional city in the clouds by and for change makers. What's going on here? And what's this thing about Togetherland and El Culo del Diablo and El Puente? And, what's going on here? Right? It'll be a thing of curiosity that'll mainly call to change makers initially, which is great, because the first people who you want on a construction site are not, 90-year-old women showing up to have tea and crumpets, but builders, right? We need to build the place that then becomes safe for 90-year-old gals to come and have tea and crumpets.
Yes.
So change makers,
Yes.
welcome. Let's build this out. Let's make it amazing. And then the more amazing it becomes, the more people will come pouring in. And it'll become a virtuous cycle. This will become the capital city for change making on the planet. The capital city, the world capital of change making. ICIC. Because you first have to see before you can make change happen. You first have to see. You have to shed the delusions.
And only because you're rather well informed and already buying into the stuff of we're all one and all this stuff, I'm talking about myself now, there's still loads I don't know, like how bad it is. Right now, as we're speaking, I'm having some coffee and I realize, God, it says fair trade, but it's still causing terrible wounds to people and to the planet, if it's not really, really cool coffee or bananas. I had a banana earlier. So, but I'm only waking up to these things bit by bit. So I'm sure I can even learn a lot and be changed even further and more. There's probably no way I can come out any other than vegan, actually, after having done this.
Absolutely. Like I said, you'll never come back. Rides from which you will never come back.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And I put instead of milk, I put some cocoa powder into it. And I'm sure that wasn't fair and sustainable. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Hey, speaking of fair and sustainable, I need to get on with some other things right now. So I'm going to pause record. But first, let me thank you both for being part of this amazing conversation about ICIC. I'm going to publish this. And tomorrow we're going to meet starting at 11 a.m. and we're going to go deep into all this, deep into the depths of El Culo del Diablo and beyond.